The way I connect with fellow colleagues around the world is by connecting with them with social media. One few of the platforms we use are WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We also use Google Docs to share resources and collaborate our work.
I use conferences and in-person meetings as a way to amplify my connections with school leaders. So once we are able to find each other on social media, such as LinkedIn or Twitter, then the conversation can continue outside of and far beyond the in-person meetings.
Well, as international educators, we're spread all over throughout the world, and oftentimes it can feel like we're working in individual silos. But now through social media, it's very easy to connect with one another, share our resources. I get to see what other schools across the world are doing, and I could also share all of the great things that we're doing on our campus. Well, at our school, we do think that it's very important to share with our families and our prospective families as well, all the great things that we're doing on campus. But writing a lot of newsletters, we found out, was not very captivating for the families. So we turned to social media because it's a great opportunity to share what you're doing at school here and now. It's very recent, there's snapshots, there's pictures, and because we're using pictures, it's captivating, and we're not being very wordy because in today's times, not a lot of people have a lot of time to sit down and read through all the newsletters, so just little tidbits throughout the day is really helpful. We're also using social media to recruit potential teachers so they get to see what a great place our school is and what the working environment will be like. And social media is also a great tool to captivate prospective students so they could come and see how education takes place on our campus, all the great activities that take place and how the learning takes place.
I've learned in China is that with different social media apps and different ways to connect other than Twitter, it's really made us question what's our purpose and who's our audience. And so for considering telling your story to the world, who do you want to tell it to? We learned with parents, we needed a different platform. In China, that's called WeChat. But on Twitter, I can encourage our staff and faculty, including myself, to continue to build the professional learning network and reach out to other educators and find ways to learn and connect with others around the world, because that's a different audience. So depending on that audience and what your purpose is for the storytelling or the connection, choosing the different platforms is really crucial.
Jump on it, do not hesitate, get on social media and be proactive. As school heads, we are the ambassadors of our school, and we want to ensure that we tell the story of our school through our own lens. Oftentimes when people aren't sure of what may be going on at the school, they may create assumptions, or if it goes down the wrong path, there may be rumors that may be spread that you would not want. So you want to make sure that you are transparent about what's going on. Use that opportunity to tell them the intentions of the school and all the great work that goes on behind the scenes.
I would say one of the biggest areas of learning and growth and development at our school has been in the area of communication. And we've spent several years really studying and trying to understand what to do with communication, because we've always communicated. We've used a number of different methods. We've always had newsletters, we've always had a website, and social media, we've begun to have a presence. But what I want to share is that I think in the last few years, we've really become much more strategic about the way that we harness communication strategies so that, to use your word, we can amplify our story. So first we had to be clear about what are the messages that we're trying to send to our community about at any particular time, and what's the through line in terms of our story that we want to tell about our school. And then I think slowly looking at all of our methodologies, our strategies for communication, and making sure that there is some cohesion across all of those different methodologies. So, for example, our website, we've always had a website, but it used to be a more static website that kind of remained the same no matter when and where. And now I think it's much more of an evolving website that you can always go back to and look for different information. There's some information that stays the same, but there's some other stuff that is unique and different. And so there's information that you can get, so it invites people to the website. That approach to thinking about your website was a significant shift for us, and it's just been fabulous for everybody involved. The second area is with social media. So thinking about what are the ways that we now want to be present on social media and engage with our community. And we sort of started with basically our internal community of our faculty and our staff, teaching them how to use Twitter, kind of leveraging Facebook and having Facebook be a place that people come together and being open about that. And now we're also using LinkedIn and Instagram. And I think that we've really helped our parents to understand that this is a place that they can also use, they can access, and they can post things about our school when they go to events or when they want to share about things that they know that are happening. And so the fact that our parents are aware that we're on Twitter and we're on Facebook and that we want their posts to be on there, and they're now starting to use it. It's still in the beginning stages, but I think we see that beginning to happen, and we have several teachers who are actively using Twitter, and definitely Facebook is very active. And I think LinkedIn is now our next big thing that we're trying to promote as a way to market our positions, our openings that we have at the school, and some cool things that we are doing, and just kind of connecting all of the pieces to that. We have a small project around LinkedIn where we're trying to get our parents to log in their information on LinkedIn so that we can then see what kinds of talents we have, skills and talents that we have in our community, so that we can tap into that. So that's another thing that's just beginning, and we're recognizing the power of that connectedness with social media. And then the third thing is probably the hardest thing, which is our structures for communication. Lots and lots of work in that area. We used to have every single principal sending out newsletters. I would send out a newsletter. The library sends out a newsletter, athletic director, the medical office, all these different things going out. And what we did was we actually had a board committee. It was called the Board Community Relations Committee. And they did an audit, a communications audit, and a survey of our population to say, what do you think about how we're communicating? And not everybody responded, but of the people that responded, we were able to ascertain that we need to streamline our communication, which was very hard for us to accept, because we felt like we're communicating and look at all these ways that we're communicating. But what we realized is that we may think we're communicating, but it's not being received because people were bombarded. There was too much information. It was very hard to go through. And if you were a parent of multiple children in multiple divisions, it was really hard to figure out what was going on. And so we said we really need to streamline, which is a disciplining of ourselves about how we communicate, when we communicate, and the methodology that we use to communicate. And so I would say we're still kind of having a hard time trying to accept that that's what we're doing, but we're seeing results. We communicate on one day per week, and we think about our methods of communication, and on any given day we're like, okay, is this the right day to communicate that, or should we wait until tomorrow or the next day? Because we've already sent out these 3 messages and maybe that's too much. And then the other thing is looking at how we write to our community, and who's going to say what. So across our 3 principals and all the other people who need to communicate, trying to really bring that together into a cohesive format so that if you're a parent, you have a similar format for all the 3 divisions so you can find information quickly and easily, because people are busy and they don't have a lot of time to read. And so we want to make sure that communication is done in a simple and easily accessible way. And if you want to read more, there's a link to saying you can go and find out more information here. But the basics are very clear, and our parents are getting information that is concise and easy to access. The other thing that was a big deal for us was really the decision to make sure that information is sent out in both English and Spanish. So we know that that's harder to do because you have to do it in 2 languages, but we believe that it's the right thing to do. So everything is translated. All of our communication to our parents is done in both languages, and I cannot tell you how appreciative our families are. Many of our families can read English, but perhaps it's easier and quicker to read in Spanish, so we make it more accessible for them. And then the third thing I want to say is that really having some fun with different ways of communication. So what I've tried to do is to use video as a method of communication. So once a month, I do a little video message called Minute with Madeline. It's usually more than a minute, so everybody always says it's not a minute, Madeline, it's more than a minute, but it's close to a minute. It's usually a little bit more than a minute, maybe 2 minutes, but essentially it's a short message with me talking and me really putting forward something that we value at our school for our community to understand what we're doing in that area. And it's kind of been fun to learn how to do that. It took several takes before I would feel comfortable doing it and seeing yourself on screen. But it's been the most wonderful exercise for us, and we're getting better and better at planning it and filming it and actually producing the thing. I have a team of people who are really experts at doing this, and I count on them for getting it right every single time. And then I do want to say, so communicating digitally is so important, but there's also still the power of in-person communication, sharing the news and sharing the ideas of what you have, and there's no replacement for doing that face-to-face. And then the other thing is something that we all still care about is paper communication. So what we try not to do too much paper, but there is a place for paper communication, for posters around campus that are talking about an event that's coming up and people see it and they're reminded by it, aside from our digital communication. So there's places for doing that, and then we also use student work for communication. And so bringing all of those together, again, strategically thinking about how you're communicating and what is the message that you're trying to communicate, who gets to do that, and what's the discipline of communication. It's been a great learning curve for us. Thank you.
I know that our parent and student audience are oftentimes on Instagram. At least that is very popular where we live in our region. So I make sure that every time there's something great going on at school, let's say a great in-service, or we have a special consultant that's on campus, I want to make sure that we capture the here and now, what's going on at school, and share that through Instagram, because that's the platform that our parents and teachers and parents are on. Another great tool that we're using is WhatsApp. We know that our parents and our students use WhatsApp a lot with one another. And if there's a question about what's going on at school, it's very common for them to ask each other. But we want to make sure that they come straight to the source, that they come to us. So what we've started doing is that we use WhatsApp to broadcast the information, and we're making sure that it's very timely and all the information is in the moment. And that way they know that we're available and they could reach to us very accessible in a very easy manner. If they have any questions, any doubts, we're right there to answer them. I would say that it's important to constantly stay informed. If you see different communication tools that are out there, engage yourself, be interested, seek out how it's used, and be sure you find out what best communication tool fits which specific stakeholders. I know that a certain age group may prefer Facebook, others Instagram, and for a lot of our student population, Snapchat is very popular. So, be sure to read up on what's available these days and do your best to learn more about it.